This week on the Computer Chronicles, the best new computer games and online games. Ryan McDonald of GameSpot.com shows us his favorite new games. Brandon Justice of IGN.com tells us why it's not the end of the world if you can't get your hands on a PlayStation 2. Jeff Lundrigan of Next Generation Magazine shows us a great new game called No One Lives Forever. And meet Dennis Fong, Thresh, perhaps the world's best Twitch gamer, with tips on how to beat those nasty creatures who are out to kill you. Plus, my pick of the week, one printer that does two jobs. The best new computer games coming up next on the Computer Chronicles. The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, lawyering with integrity for internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news. Hi, and welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee. You know, most people don't realize it, but more money is spent in this country on computer games and video games than is spent going to the movies. It is a huge business, and when a really great new game comes out, that is an exciting moment if you're a gamer. So this week we thought we would bring you up to date on the best new electronic games, and quite a few of them to talk about. And start off, this is Ryan McDonald, senior editor with GameSpot.com. You've been here before.
Yes, sir.
You were up all night playing games, which you're going to show us one of them in just a minute. You got a couple you like, and one of them is called Hitman, which is new up here right now. First of all, what's the story of Hitman? What kind of game is it?
It's a third-person kind of shooter game. You know, it's not your typical, you know, wham bam shooting, running through, you know, trying to stack.
What's different about it?
It's more of a thinking game. You got to think about what you're going to do. You have to kind of plan your attack. You have to go ahead and like hide the bodies and.
Okay, a little brain, a little twitch.
Yeah. It's a little bit more than just running and shooting.
All right, so show us what the deal is there. So what's the storyline here?
The storyline's kind of like Point of No Return with Bridget Fonda, that cool movie a while back. Basically, you wake up in a bed with no memory or recollection of how you got there, and basically you're just told to get dressed and start learning how to fight and how to use guns.
Where are you? What's the deal? What am I supposed to do?
Yeah, exactly. So so here's part of the game when you just first start, and you got all these cool little knives that you can pick up over here, and you can get a couple of those, and you start learning how to use your knife.
How to kill people.
Yeah, you can use your weapons. Yeah, and you got all kinds of fun stuff like different guns and different weapons. Like here's a good old piano wire. You come up from behind and grab a hold of the person.
You will soon get the hang of this.
And you learn how to do that. So then from here, the game progresses and you get past your training, and they actually put you in the field and you start working for like the agency. And so the agency pays you money, and the money you use to buy more weapons so you can do better jobs. Yeah, you're a hitman.
Okay.
And so we get a little gunplay action right here.
But what's fresh about Hitman? I mean, we've had other games that were sort of a little bit of brains and a little bit of killing.
What's fresh about Hitman is its exactness, and also it's just all the different cool weapons you get to use and the gadgets.
Okay.
So there's
it's got a lot of depth to it, a lot of different things you can do.
A lot of fun toys.
Okay.
But a lot of people didn't like it at first. They had there was few small problems that the game had. But here's a little target practice for you. But once you finally get into the game and you start learning how it works and how it plays, it's actually quite good.
Okay. All right, so let's get off Hitman and go to, I know, your favorite, Red Alert 2, which you've been playing all night long.
Yes, definitely.
And let's boot that one up. While we're waiting for that to boot up, I got to ask you the question. I always ask you. I mean, people see this as these kids are learning how to steel rope wires around people's necks and shove knives in people.
Right.
Is it a bad thing for kids to be doing?
To be perfectly honest, I don't think a lot of kids are playing these games. You know, these computers cost a lot of money.
Older guys like you?
Yeah, I think mostly 18, 24. You know.
Yeah.
Sure, I think some younger kids probably play their dads.
I mean, they say desensitizes you to violence. Easier to kill a real guy if you can kill a guy on the computer.
You know, for me, I grew up playing this stuff, so I've always known it wasn't real.
No big deal.
It's just a game.
All right, so let's get to another kind of game, Red Alert 2, which you love. You were up all night long playing Red Alert 2, right?
Yeah, Red Alert 2.
So is it like a whole series of games, right, for Command &
Commander,
Conquer?
good morning. We've successfully instituted the
as you see here, there's like news reports going crazy. The story is basically that the Soviet Union has invaded the U.S.
Okay.
And so that's what sets the stage for you, being like the last commander in charge of the armed forces, and you basically got to.
Great cinematics, obviously.
It's awesome. They got lots of real actors for this. Western Studios went all out.
All right. So gameplay is the story is.
The story is the Soviets have invaded the U.S. and you basically got to repel the forces. And there's 2 discs actually, so you get to play both sides. You get to play as the Allied forces and the Soviets.
Okay.
So it's almost like 2 games in 1, in fact.
All right. Can we get to the game action itself?
Sure.
So we've seen a little bit of this.
As you can see, they'll throw a little map up here for us.
So you use a real-time strategy. You got to garner your forces, keep track of all the stuff that's going on.
If anybody's been familiar with the Command & Conquer universe, they'll totally realize, you know, the different units and stuff like that. But where this game picks up after Red Alert, the first Red Alert, is you can do so much more with the units now. Basically, every little tank and every little vehicle, you put different guys in it, does all kinds of different
Take us
stuff.
around the space a little bit so we can see.
It's still setting us up. And
okay.
They got a little video window of Carrier War in here, and you can see the Soviets are starting to, you know, blast the Statue of Liberty. And she is going to pop up down here. You'll see her little character.
Okay.
And she's called Tanya, and she's basically like this demolition expert. She can take out all these things with, like bombs. So now we're playing.
Okay.
We select her. You can hear her, you know, saying, "Ready to go, boss." And you say, you know, "I want to sink those ships before they blow up the Statue of Liberty." And here
So this is just a lot deeper than the earlier ones. More stuff to do, more options.
Way more stuff to do. The quality of stuff that you can do is just unbelievable. And now that it's, you know, the settings here in the U.S., you get to, you know, see cool monuments like
you
this.
recognize stuff, yeah.
And if you're an Allied force, of course, you're repelling the forces or you're guarding it.
All right, so Red Alert 2, must have. We don't have time to show this, but I know there's another game you like, and this has just incredible graphics. Sacrifice, just tell us briefly what's cool about Sacrifice.
Sacrifice is really different. It's a real-time strategy game as well, but like
gorgeous pictures.
Beautiful, beautiful game. And it's got a storyline that, you know, anybody that's into fantasy stuff will really like.
Yeah. Okay, so let's review for folks who talk about, we showed Hitman #1, okay? That was a game you liked?
Yes.
All right, that was the violent one, shoot 'em up. Red Alert 2.
Fantastic game.
Hey, great game. And finally, beautiful game, Sacrifice. Your 3 picks.
Good games.
Hey, Ryan, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, well, another great gamer site on the web is IGN.com. That's part of Snowball.com. These guys, of course, also live and breathe computer games and video games. Here to tell us what's hot from their perspective is Brandon Justice. How you doing, Brandon?
Pretty good.
You are like the Sega Dreamcast expert, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, now, everybody's like crazy over PlayStation 2, and I got to get my PS2. And people think, you're showing us Dreamcast, this old stuff. Do I have to like panic if I didn't get my PlayStation 2?
Well, not really. To be real honest, the only reason you might want to panic is if you were really wanting to watch that new DVD you got.
I want a DVD player.
Yeah, but you know what? Circuit City has them on sale right now for 90 bucks. Run out and get one.
So you don't think PS2 is worth all the mania, huh?
No, not really. I think
and the online thing isn't really there yet, right?
It won't be until probably Q2 next year for Sony. And even then, it's going to be broadband, and it's very limited. I mean, I know I heard you saying that you don't have access where you live, and it took me forever to get it where I live. And, you know, I can just imagine what it's like in the rest of the country.
Okay.
But
and actually, Dreamcast, pretty cool graphics, pretty great action. The online stuff is there. It's a pretty respectable platform, right?
Oh, definitely. As far as games go right now, nobody's putting out more great games than Sega.
Right. Now, the online stuff is what I want to focus on you. That's what's really cool about this. We're online right now with our Dreamcast, right?
That's right.
And you've got a hot game, NBA 2K1 up here, which is online, play basketball against other dudes, right?
Right.
All right, so you're online right now. Just sort of tell us what's going on here and get us a game going here.
All right. Basically, we're in the lobby. I guess we'll challenge. You can challenge different users.
So you got
here.
chat here.
Right, you got a chat lobby where you can find games. There are tons of users connected.
Right.
And it
There's
shows
a lot of trash talk here. This is like real basketball stuff, right?
Oh yeah. Definitely lots of hoopsters, lots of ballers. This guy here's been talking some smack, so we'll challenge him a game and see if he's ready. All right, and basically you can challenge anybody in the lobby to a game, and whether or not they accept is up to them. But
Right, now, is this a one-on-one game, or are you playing a full game?
We're going to play 5-on-5, hopefully. His nickname's Exhibition Man, so hopefully he's all about the exhibition.
All right.
He didn't apparently want any. All right.
I didn't want to play with you.
Yeah, we'll go check somebody else.
Okay, so these are the guys that are on. You can actually filter who's in there and decide what kind of connections they have.
Right, you can filter based on connection, whether or not they have a keyboard. We got a game here.
All right.
All right.
So who are you? You're Lakers.
He's the Lakers because he's a wuss.
Okay.
You see, that's what the bad players do.
So who are you going to be?
I'm going to be the Clippers because I'm not afraid.
Clippers, Lakers.
All about the
not
Clippers.
Afraid. Okay.
Let me talk to him
show us
here.
what this action looks like here. So I'll let you go. You just tell us what you're doing.
All right, right now we're setting up the game. We're picking teams, and basically he's ready to go. I'm ready to go. So I send my controller up. He goes down.
Does it matter if you're on different speed lines?
Actually, everyone connected right now through basketball is playing via the 56K modem that comes packed in with the Dreamcast. Broadband modem is actually coming out in early January for the system, and then people will be able to get
So to do what you're doing, you
connections.
just need the basic Dreamcast console,
Right,
right?
right
It's got
out of the
phone
box.
jack. Okay, go.
Yeah, everything you need for online gaming outside the games is
Right.
ready right out of the box. All you need is a phone line, and you're good to go.
All right, so what's happening here? Guys are still chatting down there.
Yeah, I got to talk a little trash. Tells me good luck. I say, you'll need it more than me. All right, well, he's got it paused.
All right, tell him we got to go here. This is a TV show. He's messing around in the middle of the night somewhere.
Yeah, I know. What's the deal? All right, he's making subs here. He's got to put J.R. Ryder in the game, you know. He's a Lakers fan. I'll give him that. I'll give him that.
So do a little coaching here, a little managing.
Yeah, you can, before the game, you can set it up, decide who you want in the game, who you want to defend.
Okay.
You know, that's what he's doing right now.
There we go.
And you've got your game intros, which is actually pretty cool.
Okay, so the play and the game control is basically as if you're the same as single player, right? Except you've got the other guy on the other side. All right, go.
All right, here we go.
All right, Clippers, see how you can do.
Old Candy's going to get killed. We like to try, though. What is he doing? He's changing the camera. Come on, just play. All right, so right now
one player
we are
can do
online
that.
right now.
So you're playing live right now.
He's trying to back me down. He's got no game, though. I'm ready for Shaq. Oh, the big fella's going to dunk on me.
All right.
Nothing you can do. As you can see, you know, sometimes it's a little choppy, but overall it's pretty smooth.
I was just going to ask, I mean, the magic is here. I mean, you're 56K, and this is pretty darn good action.
Yeah,
here.
especially for sports.
Yeah,
All right,
I mean, it's pretty smooth action.
All right, we're going to take him off the... He's not ready. Oh, come on. Oh, shoot.
Okay.
There you go. There's a little action replay.
Wow.
That's Lamar Odom, second man out of Rhode Island, throwing down. As you can see, it's pretty smooth stuff. And depending on your connection, it's better. Sega has their own ISP, actually, which is they designed from the ground up.
Yeah.
So
how responsive is the action when you're playing the game over there? I mean,
it's definitely
no
responsive.
problem.
Yeah, right now it's shooting a free throw here.
Suppose you want to trash talk and play at the same time. You got a problem.
Well, that
Need
depends.
a partner.
Yeah, well, you know, you can help me out here. Pick up the keyboard, lay down a little smack talk. Basically, yeah, you know, you can do it if you're playing, but you know, since we're trying to speed things up.
We have a little bit of time left, and I want you to mention a new game which has just come out, which is really cool, which is Phantasy Star Online. Could you pop? It's just a little demo. The game's not quite out. Can we take a look at that real quick, and you get rid of these guys?
Yeah, sure thing.
He
He just said, "Hold on, real quick."
Oh, there you go. Good timing.
I hate it for him, but I gotta go. All right, sorry, kiddo. Yeah.
So we just want to take a look at this because this is sort of another level of gameplay for kids. You know, it's not sports, but really encourages team play and takes advantage of the online stuff.
Right. This is Phantasy Star Online. It's from Sonic Team, the creators of Sonic Adventure, Samba de Amigo, Knights, a lot of Saturn, Genesis classics.
Yeah.
This is their newest game. It's actually going to be the first console online RPG, which is very similar to Baldur's Gate for the PC. If you played that, it'll allow for up to 4 players at once.
One quick thing I want you to mention as we take a look at this, which is interesting, this is really a global game, right? You can play in any language when you're playing this game.
Yeah, the way it's set up, Sonic Team has actually created sort of a universal translator where you can put together your own words and phrases. It has certain words it recognizes, like, you know, you can put together, "I want to fight," and that's in there, and it will translate that into any language.
So you're playing some guy in Germany, it'll write it in German, France, French, etc.
Right, exactly.
All right, we're out of time, Brandon. We got to run, so thanks a lot. All right, coming up next, several other great new games. Plus, you'll get to meet perhaps one of the most famous gamers in the world, the legendary Thresh. We'll be right back. Another great resource for the latest in computer gaming is Next Generation magazine. And here's a guy who has a great job. He gets paid to review new games for the magazine. Welcome to Jeff Lundrigan. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm just fine.
All right, you got a couple games I know you really like, and one of them is the new Mech Warrior, Mech Warrior Vengeance, or Mech Warrior 4. First of all, well, people who don't know, what's Mech Warrior about?
Well, Mech Warrior is basically, it's a game about giant fighting robots, which, you know, is a great thing to do.
22nd century warfare or whatever.
They're just huge lumbering tanks. You can think of the walkers in Star Wars. That's kind of what they're like. Only they're a lot more complicated and they have a lot more firepower. So
All right, so what's different about the new Mech Warrior compared to the earlier Mech Warrior?
Well, this latest Mech Warrior is a lot more of an arcade feel to it. It's a lot easier to jump into. It's a lot easier to play. You can just kind of get in and go.
Okay.
Has a lot less of the resource management that the old one did. It has a lot less of the nitpicky.
Are you still building your warriors, though?
Yeah, to a certain extent. The classic Mech Warrior thing is to go out and shoot another robot and then salvage it for parts for the next batch that you send out.
All right, why don't we get it up here and take a look at what it looks like here? So
we do that.
Play a little game here. So we are out in the desert somewhere.
We're out in the desert.
And that character is you.
That's me. And we're
what are the
under
pieces
fire.
of the screen? Just explain what we're seeing here.
Okay, well down there off on the left is my status screen. You'll notice I've already taken some hits. My upper pods there are sort of yellow, whereas only my left leg is green because that's the only place that hasn't been hit.
And you're actually consuming energy and generating heat.
Actually consuming energy and generating heat, that's correct. And the more heat that I generate, the less well my mech will work. So you've got to kind of be careful about picking your shots and not just going all too crazy, and making sure you've got the guy in your sights before you go loading on him, because otherwise you're just going to run out of gas, basically.
So, I mean, what's the strategy here other than just sort of shooting at these guys until they fall?
Well, that's the one thing about this game that's sort of different from before, because what used to happen is, traditionally, what I'm doing here is you just target the guy's legs and wait until he falls over, and then he's helpless. They've kind of adjusted that a lot in this version.
Not quite so easy
it's
to
not
do.
quite so easy to do. Battles last a lot longer. They're actually just a hair more difficult on the whole. But it's still a lot of really great, just giant robot action, and you can't really go wrong with that.
But the difficulty is really not wasting your resources, not wasting your energy, not dying
wasting your
before you kill him.
resources, being real careful that you don't blow up too much of the other guy because you want something to salvage at the end of the day.
So you're going to use those pieces to build your next robots.
Exactly.
All right, now, before I want you to get to another game in a second, which is your other favorite one you want to show us, called No One Lives Forever. But first of all, I got to ask you about this mother of all joysticks you have here that you've been playing with. What is the deal here? This is huge.
Yeah, this is the Microsoft Force Feedback 2. It's their latest force feedback joystick. You can see it kind of jumping around in my hand. Every time I take a hit, it takes a bump.
So it's got the force feedback. What I know is you can actually rotate and twist that joystick,
You can rotate the joystick left and right. You'll notice that my torso goes this way, right. As well as turning to the right, so I can then go this way. And that's a real handy thing to have. It's also got like about 12 different buttons on it, so you can pretty much program it for any game.
But it seems to me like joysticks are not as hot as they were before for games.
Not as hot as they used to be. I think the main reason is just that they've gotten so big. Right. I mean, look at this footprint. I've got a keyboard, I've got a mouse, I've got a monitor, and right in the middle of it all, I've got this huge joystick.
All right, now before we get to the next game, I want to ask, we're talking Microsoft here, their joystick, their game.
Their joystick, their game.
We've been talking about the PS2, we've been talking about the Dreamcast so far on the show. Now they're coming out with an Xbox.
Yeah,
what's going to be special about that?
Well, it's going to have a hard drive and a modem inside it from the get-go to start with. It's going to be real easy to develop for, at least according to all the developers that we've talked to. It's not exactly off-the-shelf parts, but it's parts that people are really familiar with, and so it's not going to take a whole heck of a lot of resources.
So it could be hot.
Could be hot. Could be very hot.
All right, so let's take a look at the next game here. It's called No One Lives Forever.
Right.
Let's take a look at the game and tell me why you think it's so cool.
Okay. Well, the coolest thing about it is that you can see it's kind of a first-person shooter, but unlike most first-person shooters, this isn't set in some crazy dystopian future. Or,
this is the past, not the future.
This is the past, right. In fact, this is set square in the middle of the swinging 60s.
This sort of Austin Powers-y feel.
Very much so. You are an operative. You're Kate Archer.
Okay.
And she's the only female operative of an international super spy organization known as Unity. And as such, not only do you have to battle against these awful, super spies of the terrorist organization HARM, you've also got to battle against the sexist attitudes of all your colleagues who keep telling you, who keep telling you this is not a suitable job for a woman. And
you're not Lara Croft here.
No, you're not exactly Lara Croft. Now, I'm just kind of going gung-ho about this, but the fact is that this game actually, requires a lot more stealth than I'm letting on.
Okay, explain what you mean by stealth here.
Well, it means you have to sneak around. You can't just let...
Okay. So if they see you, you'll get blasted.
Right. If they see you, you will get blasted. I've actually done something very wrong at this point by letting you see me do it. But notice how... Oh, shoot. I just blew it. Okay.
So a little bit of thinking here. Again, once again, it's just not
here.
shooting them up, but figuring out how
No,
to
not at all.
not be seen and not be discovered
Right.
and so on.
And it absolutely nails its subject matter too. It's a really cool thing. It's based around all the silly spy movies from the '60s that you could possibly.
So it really is
imagine.
a spoof off the James Bond-y
Exactly,
type stuff.
exactly. And
Austin
it's got levels that are based around every spy movie you could think of. It's got a ski chalet. It's got an underwater spear battle. It's got an outer space.
So it's kind of a little
station.
fun and satire.
Yeah,
in
it
there
really
also?
is. And as you're walking around, like all the guards are having conversations, comparing the dental plans of the different, evil organizations that they work for. So it's very tongue-in-cheek.
All right,
It's
no
a hell
one
of a
lives
lot
forever.
of fun. Yeah.
Thanks much.
Thank you.
All right, well, if you've played games like Quake, you know how hard this can be on your fingers and on your brain. In fact, it ought to be an Olympic sport, I would think, because the guys who are good at these games are really kind of athletes in a way. One of the best of them is the gamer named Thresh. His real name is Dennis Fong, and this is Thresh over here. How you doing, Dennis?
How you doing, Stuart?
And what I was talking about Quake, and people don't know, a couple of years ago, you were considered like the best Quake player in the world, right?
That's right. Actually, it all culminated into this big Quake tournament featuring a red Ferrari.
Right, right, which you won.
Which I ended up winning.
You
That's
won,
right.
and you were too young to even drive it at the time, right?
Not quite,
Not
but
quite.
I couldn't quite.
It was a stick.
It was a stick, and I didn't actually
Right.
know how to drive stick at the time.
So you know this stuff. Now there's a new version of Quake out now, Quake 3 or Quake Arena. First of all, what's new and better about this than the original Quake that you played?
Well, Quake 3, the new one, is actually a lot more arcadey.
Oh, okay.
It's software. The developers of Quake have simplified it to where it's much easier to get online to play against people. It's
Right.
much easier to find opponents. It is also much easier to kill your opponent, because what they found were the really good players were just completely dominating.
Blowing
the game.
everybody away.
Right, and so the newer players found it very difficult to get into the game and get into the flow. So this
Okay.
new Quake 3 is much
Right.
easier to play.
Primarily online? Multiplayer?
It is primarily online. It's
Okay.
actually made for multiplayer specifically.
Got it, it's a multiplayer.
They do have a single player component, but it's not, as opposed to the previous versions of Quake, the earlier
Right.
versions, there was a storyline and there was a kind of a story that you
Right,
played through.
right.
In this version, you just play against bots.
Okay, since you were the master of the original Quake, I mean, you like this one more or less? Is it more of a challenge, less of a challenge?
Well, Quake has always been a classic, and it still
Right,
is a
right,
classic, and it's it's kind of back at my roots. But
Right.
I have to admit that Quake 3 is incredibly fun to play.
All right, we have it up here, so give us an idea what Quake 3 looks like.
Well, essentially, Quake 3 it's almost, I guess the easiest way to explain it would be like paintballing on the computer.
Okay.
Essentially you run into the game, and we have 3 bots playing against me right now.
Okay.
And essentially you pick up weapons and armor, and you go after each other. And whoever ends up, as you kill an opponent, you get points.
Right.
And at the end of a certain time limit, whoever has the most points wins.
All right, now, keep playing here, Dennis, but I want to ask you, for people who are maybe not into this as much as you guys are, you've seen a lot of these games and they sort of all look alike. There's a gun at the front there, and there's a bunch of guys and you blast away. And some people have trouble understanding what the kick of this is. Explain what the thrill is of playing this game.
Well, I mean, it's, because it's all real time. I mean, it's essentially like Cowboys and Indians all over again.
You
but
can't
it's
stop
virtual.
and think.
Right, exactly. So everything happens in real time. When your opponent moves left, he
So
moves
it is
left
this
and you
real like
save.
adrenaline rush. I mean, you got to be there or be dead.
Oh yeah, and actually, if you're playing alone at night in the dark room, sometimes if your opponent pops around a corner, you can jump out of your chair physically. It's pretty neat.
Right. But a little bit easier for the novice to maybe get into playing it.
Quake 3 is definitely much easier to get into.
All right, now I want to talk to you about another game. Now, about, I guess it was 2 years ago, we showed the original Half-Life when it first came out. And that was a great game, of course. And now there's a newer version of Half-Life, again, a multiplayer internet version of it. Tell us about that.
Well, Counter-Strike is essentially, it was actually created by 2 guys out of a garage.
Huh.
And one of the really neat things about these games is that it's modifiable. And so what they did was they took the original Half-Life engine and modified it and started building on it. And actually, they didn't do any marketing for it. They started off as a very small community. And as more and more people started playing this game, it just started picking up
So really
steam.
kind of a grassroots. So, I mean, is it really related to Half-Life or not?
Well, the neat thing about Counter-Strike, as opposed to a game like Quake 3,
Right.
is that it's based entirely on realism. Meaning, in Quake 3, there are things that you can do. You're playing predominantly with a rocket launcher or a lightning gun, and you can actually rocket jump and jump like 500 feet
But
in the air.
Half-Life is like life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in Counter-Strike, it's kind of like the Navy SEALs or SWAT team versus terrorists.
Give us a quick look at it now.
Right. This is Counter-Strike, and once again, this is a modification to half-life the original game.
Okay.
And so the really neat thing about this modification is that you can download it for free over the internet.
Okay.
If you've
If you
already
have the
purchased
original Half-Life.
Exactly.
All right, that's cool.
So
yeah, this isn't, you know, meant to be internet multiplayer. We're not really online right now because we didn't have time to do it, but you're just going to show us the terrain here, I guess.
Exactly. Well, you know, as I said before, Counter-Strike is based on real life, and this particular level that we're playing is based on Las Vegas.
Okay.
And so, you know, as you can see, you know, the MGM Grand type stuff.
Right, right.
Essentially,
so what's the realism in here? I mean, what do you have to do?
Well, in Counter-Strike, the differences are that, you know, first of all, for example, the weapons. If you hold down the weapons and fire, they're not always going to hit the same place. Just like in real life, there's recoil.
Ah, it moves around. Okay.
Exactly. You know, number two, if you hit certain parts of the body, it does more damage. So if you hit the head, he's going to die instantly.
Got it.
So there's a lot of those real life elements. You know, here you see a vending machine that you can't really buy anything, but.
All right, so sort of make-believe game, but very realistic make-believe game.
Exactly.
All right, Dennis, thanks a lot. That's a look at the latest in computer games. Don't go away. I'll be back in just a minute with my pick of the week. Now for my pick of the week. We all tend to have an output problem these days. You need a good, fast business printer for your spreadsheets and word processing documents, etc. But you also need a spiffy color printer that can do digital photographs or greeting cards, that kind of stuff. Well, up until now, that has generally meant having two different printers if you're serious about either one of those functions. But I have found one printer that actually does both very well, and that makes life a lot easier and cheaper. It is this new Epson Stylus Color 980. I actually use it as my business printer and as my fun printer. What amazes me about the printer, it's an inkjet printer, yet it is really fast, about 4 seconds per page. In fact, this baby overall is faster than the laser printer I was previously using. But it also gets you this, incredible quality 8x10 color photos from your digital camera. And even this print only took about 90 seconds to come out. The other thing I like about this printer is the user interface. When you hit print, a nice friendly little dialog box pops up, lets you know the printer's working, spitting out sheets, even if it's off in another room somewhere. You get visual feedback on the status of your ink cartridges. The printer takes either a parallel cable, serial, or USB, and it even makes it easy to do double-sided printing for things like booklets or pamphlets. It is the Epson Stylus Color 980, and the price is only about $200. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. Thanks for joining us. If you have any questions about anything you saw on the show, please check out our website at computerchronicles.org. Hope we'll see you here next time. The Computer Chronicles is brought to you by RonDiamond.com, the oldies site on the internet. Music and memories from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, not just another jukebox. Additional support comes from the law offices of Ivan Hoffman, Lawyering with Integrity, for internet law, copyright, trademark, and other intellectual property law. And by TechWeb for up-to-the-minute technology news.
To purchase a videotape copy of today's program, call toll-free 1-888-310-7850. Please specify the show number and the topic.
Next week on the Computer Chronicles, Privacy Online. We'll show you how to reject cookies and otherwise keep web marketers from stalking you. We'll show you one web service which gives out privacy licenses to websites that promise to look out for your privacy. And we'll tell you about a service called Pravada that lets you surf the web anonymously. Plus tips on how to meet people online but not give away too much about who you are or where you are. Plus my pick of the week, the world's smallest digital camera. Privacy Online, next week on the Computer Chronicles.